Hey everybody, so we are back to, we've been doing, I had started a series that was going to talk about the channel and everything it has to offer. I had done just a YouTube channel over at Monroe Valley, and I told a little bit of history of Monroe Valley Chapel and all that. It's one of my favorite places. I love the Monroe Valley, I love that chapel. It has a lot of personal significance to me. Today we are here in Coleman Memorial Park, which originally was called Mount Lebanon. It was started by George Dawson Coleman. He built the homestead, the very first mansion there in, I believe it was 1858, sticks in my mind, but it might have been a little earlier than that. That home was extraordinary, and we're doing that series on it, and I'll be going back and doing it. I'm getting help from my friend Missy, who's letting me borrow some books on the Colemans, and a tour book I've been going through, some other really cool pictures, some on the interior. We also got to see the butler's pantry is actually over at St. Luke's Episcopal Church. It's there, the ladies' chapel. So all that wood that's in there was what was originally around that butler's pantry, and the door was like what was right behind where they preach. Pretty cool thing. We're actually down here, the fourth mansion. I'm trying to think which one this one. John Penbrock was down there. They have the really beautiful gardens, and they have some of those lattice works and stuff like that. This was one of the Coleman. This is another Brock, I believe, because his two daughters, Debbie, and I'm trying to think what the other daughter's name was, but they both married the Horace and Arthur Brock, and their mansions are up at the homestead. Were the three original mansions, and these were two of the children that they are here. This mansion was sitting right here, and this is the wall that I'm sitting on is one of the remainders of that. And it's just Coleman Park, or the Mount Lebanon. They brought in a lot of different fauna, like different types of trees, bushes, flowers, things from all over the place. So even to this day, when you come through Coleman Park, you really get to see a lot of really unique trees, bushes, flowers, and all kinds of stuff of that nature. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful park, and I love coming here. So I'm coming here today for the whole idea of talking about Instagram. But let's go back to talking about the homestead, because I lose track of things and start going. Now we're talking about Peruvian penguins in Panama who enjoy peanuts. But they actually had some very famous guests there, like U.S. Grant, a number of other really important businessmen, writers, publishers. He served under one of the presidents, sort of in having to do with industry and things of that nature, because the Coleman family, a lot of people have forgotten how important they were to the country and even to the world. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to do more and more on the Colemans and make people aware. Eventually do the documentary, the Colemans' tremendous triumph and terrible tragedy, and just sort of talk about their lives and go through all the generations to present day. But anyways, that home lasted till I think 1962. It got torn down. The other four mansions all got torn down in the 1930s. And they were built from, I think, 1880s to right around 1900s. So some of them only lasted like 30 some years. Two of those mansions were actually, the request was when they were handed over to the city that they would be torn down. And the other two, besides the homestead, ultimately got torn down, just because you think about it, like the Colemans always talk about they never did anything halfway. Like, so they used the very best of everything, best architects, best materials. Trying to upkeep something like that is very, very difficult if you're not doing normal everyday upkeep. So the cost was just prohibitive, and there really wasn't a trust left to take care of that. They had wanted the Colemans, with the other three homes, especially with the homestead, that they would be used for the arts, for the sciences, for literature, that this park would be a place that people could come and experience all the things that give life vibrancy, to teach, to instruct, to edify, to educate. And the park still does that to a degree, but the original goal, the money just wasn't there, and of course the Great Depression. So ultimately it was cheaper, as much as the city didn't want to do it, it was cheaper to tear the buildings down, and ultimately the homestead was the last that was left and got torn down in 1962. There are still a number of pieces of these. The one mansion, they actually made the gazebo, the stone underneath the foundation. That is from that mansion right across the road from there. I think that was the first mansion that was actually torn down. But a number of the old buildings, like the caretaker's house, which is right at the front where you can enter the park, where they have the big Coleman Memorial Park sign, that's been there pretty much from the beginning. A couple other buildings are still standing as well. There's another, I think, the guardhouse is, I don't know if it's called that, but they basically would, the other road that went out, that was there. Christ Evangelical, or First Presbyterian Church. That was built by, I believe, Deborah and George Dawson and the one daughter. They built that for the workers in the local area. They had, right below us would have been the North Lebanon Iron Furnace, Iron Works, and that specifically, they would build these churches for those workers at different locations, and there were always these beautiful stone churches. Coleman Memorial Chapel, the Coleman Chapel here in Lebanon. Trying to think what the name of the Cornwall United Methodist Church, that was built by them, and so many more. Just a legacy that they left that really was extraordinary. And that's here in this park. There's these 5 placards, one of them which is right behind me over there that you can see right there, for each of them to talk about each of the individual mansions and the people that lived there, when they were built, when they were torn down, some of the important features of them and things like that. And these were Gilded Age Victorian mansions. Like I've said before, and this isn't to pass blame on anybody, but it's such a shame that they're not still standing, because what you would have here would be completely unique in the country. I mean, there's probably other ones, but they're more privately owned and you can't visit them. You would have something that you could come and visit, a different way of life. I think the caretaker over at Heidelberg Hall, he had explained it that it wasn't about opulence. It was about showing your knowledge of the natural and scientific, world, and showing what you knew, because they brought in a lot of things, and it showed your appreciation for extraordinary architecture, engineering, and all that kind of stuff. And these are all things I love to photograph, and that's what we're talking about, Instagram. And I've done a lot of photography for Instagram here. I will throw up a whole slew of my pictures. Instagram's a cool thing to check out. I actually do flip, which I got to be more vigilant with this. I usually flip my Instagram pictures over to my personal page, and then I'll go and flip them over to the Facebook page, which I have not been keeping up and have not been vigilant with. But Instagram's where I do all that. I also am starting to do back and forth, once again, not being as vigilant as I should be with Instagram Reels, which is some of the shorts. And also, I have now discovered they offer this thing where you can put music to the pictures. I had a great one with Ralph. It had a Frank Sinatra song. Ralph is, when we did our Let It's Walk on the main, it's From Behind, which you guys may like. And it's just perfect. It just fits the picture perfectly. But I'm having fun with that and some of the other things. So there's a lot of another cool little page with Instagram that shows you all kinds of the photography, some of the journeys. The pictures will come out before the videos. Once I get myself fully going here again with the channel, I'd like to get it to where I have, a wide array of videos and sort of a backlog. So when you do hit the bad weather in, winter and that type of stuff, because I have struggled with my hands with the really cold. Even today, it's probably like 50, high 50s, low 60s. It's just cool enough where there's an edge to it, and I don't enjoy it because I don't like being cold. But anyways, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'll probably do a bunch of photographs here, just because Coleman's Park is so beautiful, and then I'll present those as well on this video once I Instagram me up and make them look all nice and fancy like me. But we're going to go over and we're going to check out the sculpture, Conversations with Myself. I think that's another really cool thing here. But it really is, if you're local, it's a good place to come and visit, because it is just such a neat, really, really neat place. Just to enjoy nature, just to enjoy the quiet to a degree, because you are in technically Lebanon, and there's noises right now because I think somebody's paving a parking lot over there, so you hear the boing 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 with the backing up truck backed right in front of me when I came down here. But really beautiful day, beautiful park. It's definitely a place worth coming to. So let's go over to Conversations with Myself. So here we are at Conversations with Myself. This is a sculpture. It was done by a lady. I think she's out in Denver, Colorado. It was, I guess, Jared Ogre, who was a football player from the NFL, played for Penn State, and then played for several different NFL franchises. He went here to Lebanon High School as a star here before he went to Penn State, and was a star there, and then a star in NFL. This was a sculpture, I guess he had seen a smaller version or something of that nature, that really sort of helped him through a really rough time in his life. And it just spoke to him. And it just is so beautiful. You sort of see Conversations with Myself, where you sort of have the adult and the inner soul at times. There's an innocence in some ways. And it's sort of a conversation with your inner child, if you will. And just sort of taking things back to basics and those types of things. But it's just such a beautiful sculpture. I believe it was originally meant to be put either at the high school or the middle school in Lebanon. Ultimately, they couldn't get the permissions for it that they needed, and they decided to put it out here, thankfully, out here at Coleman's Park. And it's just such a neat thing, so unique to be able to see this. But it's so cool when you just look at it. Just the emotion that's being able to put forth through this is just stunning. You just see as the face looks up at the bean, and it's just such a neat thing here in Coleman Memorial Park. But anyways, I'll put more photographs. There's Chuck, as always. But this is just such a great place. They do have all kinds of things here: basketball courts, tennis courts. They also have disc golf, the frisbee golf here as well. And then, like I said, a number of really cool buildings that are still here. The original stables, which were the carriage house, they called it, the ready house as well, which I believe was operated as a garage when they first started having motor vehicles before they switched over the carriage house from horses to, because they would have the carriage house, they'd have their carriages there and take them down to their own rail station, which was down the Cornwall and Lebanon. And they had two of them there, actually, but that both the Coleman railroads would operate out of for Lebanon. And they would, take a run down there in their carriage and get on the train and go to wherever they were planning on going. But a lot of really cool history here in Coleman Memorial Park, a lot of cool history here in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. And it's just, I constantly say with my channel, history is out there, and it certainly is. And this is an example. This park alone, I mean, it would have been magnificent to see it back in its heyday, what this actually looked like, and just to experience that. We can experience it through some pictures that, Missy is graciously allowing us to use. So I might pop a couple of those up on here as well, along with my Instagram and then the pictures that I'm taking of the park today. And go from there. But I encourage you to, once again, it's another one of those avenues of the channel, whether it is, the YouTube channel itself, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon allows you to support the channel. I want to start eventually, once I get a little more professional, have things that are involved with that as well. Once everything gets a little more financially stable and stuff like that, I want to actually say thank you for the gifts that are being given, because that certainly means a lot. And then you have Painted Squirrel, which is Josh and Sharon's store that does a lot of art stuff, and some of the photography is done through there. And then the merch store, which I'll be talking about at another time. You're just starting to see some of the AI art that we're doing through that for the channel, for especially haunted history shorts, but also a lot of that stuff will be available on different clothing, bags, coffee mugs, things of that nature. That I'm hoping will be coming around January 1st. So as always, I want to say thanks for coming along, and we'll see you all about town.